Hello, beautiful souls. So, how have you all been? Welcome back to my channel, Breathe and Balance, where we talk about everything related to um, regaining balance in all aspects of our lives um, through inner work, metaphysics, and energy healing. Right. And, the last couple of videos I've been talking about perspectives, right? Because a lot of things have been coming up around this, how perspectives create reality um, for the purpose of our soul evolution, right? So you can, of course, go back and watch those episodes if you have not done so already. Mm. Because what I'm going to talk about today is a kind of an expansion on that, right? Because I've had the most amazing experience with one of my very committed clients, long-term clients, and mm, that's what I want to actually share with you today. So just to give you a little bit of a background um, on how I work with my clients. So as most of you know, I'm a psychospiritual practitioner, therapist, energy healer, intuitive healer, reader, all of that. So I combine therapeutic modalities with energy healing and intuitive healing and readings. To cater to the individual requirements of the person in front of me or my client, with the ultimate goal or intention or purpose of healing, whatever healing means to that person. Mm. So in my kind of work now, more and more what I experience is that even clients who come for psychotherapy gradually moves towards the psychospiritual, the more spiritual aspects, it deepens into the metaphysics, and it's profound sometimes what comes through, especially when we are connecting with spirit. And in how it happens is especially I'm a channel, so I channel the what I call the divine or spirit god, however you would like to refer to that. So as practitioners and healers, we have our own journey of evolution, right? We all learn and grow in the process. And what I'm figuring out or understanding myself in the process as I work with clients is that we are all a part of this one consciousness, of course. But as individuals, we have our own consciousnesses, right? So my consciousness and the consciousness of my client and the divine consciousness have to kind of align, in order for one thing, of course, for the healing to take place, but especially when I do what I call transmissions, the channeling. The more aligned these consciousnesses are, the more profound the messages and the guidance that comes through. So the more open the two people who are involved, that is me as a practitioner and my client, are, the more aligned we are with that one consciousness, the divine or spirit, and the more guidance, the deeper guidance that we receive, because it depends on our journey of, evolution and awakening, where we are in, the expansion of our consciousness. This is not about being better or worse or higher or lower. It's not a comparison, but just to acknowledge that we are all on our journeys and at different junctures. So what we receive, of course, is aligned with that particular frequency, right? So as we keep raising our vibrations and, expanding our consciousness, the kind of messages that we receive also expand accordingly. Which is why it's so important to keep doing the inner work, right? Because that's what helps us expand our consciousness. So coming to this particular client session, which actually happened, I think, last Friday. right? So this, once again, I need to really talk a little bit about this client as well, because, she's been a long-term client, been working with me for over a year now. And she has made a lot of progress, right? She came with a lot of physical pain, barely able to speak, with fibromyalgia and so many other conditions. And over the 1 year she's been working with me, um, she's made not only progress in her physical health, but of course emotional, mental health, and she's beautifully opened up in her connection with spirit. Of course, she was naturally inclined that way. She's also always been a very spiritual person, but with this kind of work, I can see how her spiritual gifts are also kind of blooming and blossoming. And in the work that we are now doing in our sessions, it's really, really interesting, not only during the session, but in between, how we are connected telepathically. I mean, I can receive her messages that she's thinking almost verbatim sometimes. And I would message her some downloads, and she was like, oh my God, even I was thinking exactly the same. And even during the sessions, I find that, I'm seeing some vision and she's seeing the similar kind of a vision, and we are receiving kind of the same message simultaneously. It has come to that level, after all this work. So, so it takes a lot of commitment to the process as well. So, and I consider myself really blessed to be doing this work with my clients, because I receive a lot of what we call borrowed benefits, because I learn and grow with each one of my clients, right? And anyway, all our clients are aspects of ourselves. So, so last week, when we started the session and, opened up to the channeling or the transmission process, the first thing that I saw was the trident, right? So, I mean, when I'm in that space, yeah, I'm not a trance channel. I'm a very conscious channel, but some of it, because it's a different space, a very intuitive space. So I shut down my analyzer a lot. It's at a very, minimal state, and it's my intuitive mind that is very open. So I don't analyze anything. It just comes as like a stream of consciousness. And of course, sometimes the mind tries to interfere. And I will give you some examples, especially for those of you who are also aspiring psychics or intuitive healers, this might be of use. Because we are constantly learning and evolving, right? We are work in progress. So, so I saw this trident and I was like, okay, what is this about now? So I was describing, as a practice. I say, okay, I see this and this is the message I hear or see, feel, whatever, right? Because we have many psychic senses. It's not just visual. Uh, and the more advanced you or refined your skills become, like you receive information from all your senses, right? You become like a channel, your entire being becomes a channel for the divine. So I was like, okay, what is this trying to communicate? Then immediately came Holy Trinity. I was like, Holy Trinity, like you see now the mind is saying, oh, Holy Trinity is associated with Christianity, but so that's what my mind was trying to say. So I was like, okay, something about Holy Trinity. So I actually my mind dismissed it, saying, okay, maybe because she's Christian, my client is Christian, but she's very interested in Buddhism, and she keeps listening to Buddhist the Dhamma talks, etc. She's quite well versed in Buddhism as well. So, but I just assumed it, and of course, then Jesus Christ, who also assisted me a lot in my work, came through. So I was sharing that with her. So more and more, I was like, okay, this has something to do with Christianity, and I didn't try to explore it too much, right? And so just before session started, we were talking certain things about the Dhamma, Buddhist teachings as well. And now Jesus Christ is coming in the in my vision, and I knew his presence is there very much. And immediately the message that came through thereafter was that uh, all the spiritual teachers and teachings are parallel realities. All spiritual teachers and teachings are parallel realities. Now, this is the first ever time I received that information directly, or I had, not even um, heard it from any other source, right? Other teachers or, channelers, that specific message, no, like how each spiritual teaching and teachers are parallel realities. Now, I was really interested in that because, these days what's coming through is all about, creation of reality perspectives and, the, kind of hologramic, frameworks of reality, right? That and parallel realities exist, and depending on how we create them, so on and so forth. So it's like similar territory in terms of the theme. But this was the very first time I heard this. So I was like, that's very interesting. So I shared this with my client and we kind of started exploring, and immediately I saw, actually both of us simultaneously saw this parallel, like for me it was like corridors, and for her also, like, we started seeing these parallel corridors, and it was kind of like the aerial view. And the message that came through was that each of these corridors are akin to a particular timeline or a particular reality, right? And I was shown like we could move into a particular passageway, and that means we can identify with it. We can have the experience of being in that particular reality or passageway and receive whatever the lessons or experiences that particular passageway can offer us, right? If we choose to. So that's the identification. Moving into the passageway meant that we are identifying with that and we are experiencing it through our bodies and through our senses, so on, right? So it's kind of like a particular trajectory or a timeline. And if we step back, like, that aerial view was kind of like the detached viewpoint where we could see all timelines or many, parallel timelines. And that was a much more liberating, empowering, detached kind of an experience, right? So it was like you can move in and out and in and out. So I mean, some of these messages and sensing or like this, sensations are kind of like difficult to verbalize, put into words and articulate, but I hope you are following me here. So it's about, identifying with a particular reality or choosing to have that experience in a physical body, or you can move out and kind of expand your consciousness. Yeah, that was more the message about expanding your consciousness, where it's a more expansive experience, basically, right? So they were showing us that, and then she would see it, her vision expanded into something like a circular, like, so passageways like around a circle and with a light in the middle. Whereas mine expanded into like, it moved like towards the sky, like, how parallel railway tracks, uh, go like this and move up and merge, at some point in the horizon, how we see it, right? So, but both denoting that all these parallel realities or experiences ultimately merge at one point, or there's, kind of one destination. They all meet in the same destination, right? Or they all take us to the same destination. So we kept exploring, and what came through was like, our realities are a carbon copy of an original version, right? And then finally, we were told that because we were trying to understand what's this original version is, and we were told that it's the origin of origination, right? And that was a very profound, complex message that I'm still kind of processing and integrating, because beyond that, our consciousness was not able to move beyond that. And I was clearly told, okay, this is it, kind of a thing for that session. But I felt that it was like enormous, right? So what happens is like, okay, then once we receive these transmissions, then comes the recalibration and integration, because it's not just, visions and messages. It has the power to and the purpose of shifting and expanding our consciousness and healing us. Healing happens in this process, right, as we expand. So this requires some time, because we have to carry our body along with it. Physical body is also involved, because this comes through the spirit, right, our soul, and at a spiritual level. And then it has to seep in through the consciousness into other parts that make us human beings, right, including our nervous system, neuronal pathways, cellular structure, DNA structure, all of those things. So it takes some time for the physical reality to catch up. So what I find very interesting is that once we receive transmissions of this nature, and it doesn't always have to be in sessions, it happens in our day-to-day lives, even as we walk through or move through, our day-to-day activities as well, if you are open and if you choose to receive these messages. But what I find is that it's kind of like you receive the theory part of it, and the practical application happens subsequently. At least that's how I'm being taught by Divine, right? Where I'm given, or I receive certain situations or events or interactions in my three-dimensional reality, physical reality, where I get to really experience it in a physical reality and embody it. You see, so it becomes a lived reality for me. It's not just theory. I recently had one experience which really taught me what it means to be in the world and not of the world. Of course, I'm going to make another video on that for later. But what I wanted to share is that over subsequent days, how the divine helps me to experience it in my lived reality as a human being in a physical body, in a physical reality, right? And I find it so very fascinating, and it all happens through the sign synchronicities, which is the language of the divine. So the more open you are, the more you will understand this, or understand, as we like to call it now, because it's about raising your awareness, and as I always say, healing happens in the awareness. Healing is actually an expanded state of consciousness. So the next part of this story is that, okay, now we received these transmissions, these beautiful messages, and the next day, one of my friends, one of my very dear friends, sweet friend of mine from India, I connected with her, and she had just come back from a long pilgrimage with her family, and we were just chatting, sharing with each other, and she was sharing all about her trip, her pilgrimage, which was beautiful, which was a beautiful experience, a healing experience for her. And in the process, she shared some photographs with me that she had taken, over there. And guess what? One of it was a trident. And I was like, no surprise there. But I just thought, okay, I just assumed okay, and I told her also how interesting. I just had a session, with this client where I saw a trident, and here you are. And I forwarded it to my client as well, saying the same thing, about synchronicity, which is always an affirmation, and which is very, very common in the work that I do. I do a session, something comes up, and then it's validated or confirmed with these signs and synchronicities, right? And usually expanded with expanded messages, right? And but I just left it at that, thinking, okay, it's just another confirmation, right? And it was just the next day that suddenly it struck me. We call it like a download. This insight came. Oh boy, it's Shiva, Lord Shiva, right? Of course, the Trident and Lord Shiva. Like, I was like, how didn't I even, how was it possible for me to not make that connection, given that I also a follower of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva is one of my dear guides, as well. How didn't I make this association? And then it immediately dawned on me. The Holy Trinity that the divine was telling me about is Buddha, Jesus, and Shiva. That's what they were trying to convey. That, of course, it links to that message that I received about these teachers and teachings being parallel realities. And, we choose in each lifetime, we would have followed all these and more masters, as we now call them, ascended masters, or whatever you want to call them, right? But that teachings exist in parallel realities, and we can access all of it. And them moving towards that one destination actually means that they're all teaching the same thing in different ways, with different focuses probably, and in different languages, through different frameworks, that's suitable for the suitable for the human consciousness at the time they were born on Earth, right? And so that's why we think or believe them to be so different, but they're all actually at the very heart of each of the teachings is about unconditional love and compassion, right? So that's the ultimate kind of destiny that we all strive to move towards, to become that unconditional love and compassion. And when we say that we are trying to merge with source, trance, and we use various different terms and languaging to refer to this experience of ultimately becoming unconditional love, in other words, right? So it's kind of like different pathways that all these masters have shown us, and it's up to us, as we evolve as souls, to choose each and every single path available to us to help us move towards that one destination. So you can call it bliss, you can call it nirvana, samadhi, I don't know, I mean, there may be and so many other terms, but yeah, that ultimate oneness, one consciousness, the origin of origination is our destination, right? So that was fascinating for me. Like, okay, finally, how the divine chose to kind of remind me or help me receive the messages that my mind was obstructing me because of its interpretation of what the Trident and Holy Trinity or whatever meant during the session, right? But then finally, it was kind of completed when I realized, oh my God, this is what it means, right? And also I had another realization connected to that, why the Holy Trinity to me, was depicted that way. I mean, I'm not claiming that Holy Trinity means only this. Please don't misunderstand or misinterpret this message. It's just we all receive the messages that we are meant to in the way that we can understand and is helpful for us in our highest good and deepest healing, right? So whoever who's listening to this message, I really request you to listen with discernment and take what resonates with you, and leave the rest with love and compassion for whoever it's meant to serve, right? So this is not about some ultimate truth or anything like that, but about, how one of the beautiful truths about oneness was delivered to me, through a message of parallel realities. Uh, and yeah, finally, the last link was uh, in the last, couple of months, I think I have been listening very often to this particular uh, beautiful, like, song. I would call it a song, but a kind of like a very a spiritual um, mantra kind of a song. Uh, and I will put the link down below as well. And it is about Buddha, Christ, and Shiva, right? How they're all one. And so I have been just listening to it, and it's in Hindi, and I don't even understand all of it, but I do understand the core of it. But I found that, oh my God, like, so there was a reason why I came across that song, and I was listening to it all this time, and it may have seeped into my consciousness, and then somehow aligned with everything and the messaging and the subsequent, incidents that led us to this particular experience and realizations and the beautiful expansion of our consciousness, right? And how now it's like kind of like rippling out, to my client and etc. And as I'm sharing with you, to each and every consciousnesses out there in your own consciousness, right? So yeah, I just wanted to share this with all of you beautiful souls out there. And I really hope that this helps you in some way, because it's not only about sharing an experience, but an energy in itself, right? And I'm sure, like, uh, as we share, like, our hearts and our consciousness connect with each other, and it helps us heal. That's why I totally believe in the power of alchemical conversations. These are just not words. Words carry frequency, right? And it's with a lot of love and um uh yeah, I mean, this joy, love and joy that I'm communicating, the message that I received with you. And I really, really hope that you receive it with love and joy into your hearts, and allow it to seep through your own consciousness into your heart, mind, body, and soul, and help it expand your consciousness and take you into your deepest healing. That is my deepest, deepest prayer. So thank you so much for listening and receiving. And until we meet next, bye.